Hi, welcome to the outlet. This is episode 9, and today we're discussing Antarctica because something strange may or may not be happening there, and it's a very interesting area of research. This is the outlet, and I'm Mac.
I'm Drew. Antarctica is definitely one of those places we don't know a whole lot about. And as time goes on, I think it's going to be implicated in this new alternative ancient history paradigm that's going to emerge as the studies of people like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Richard Byrd, and others is realized to be true and to have dire implications. So, that being said, Antarctica ends up being a cool topic, especially with all of the recent activity as far as political leaders traveling down there, or whether we're talking about uh, activities in the early 20th century with our military expeditions from multiple countries, including Nazi Germany, down to Antarctica, or whether we're talking about 16th century. Just to jump around a little bit, the Peary-Ray's map, which depicts Antarctic coastline untouched with ice. So
And that's their
lots of
big
point,
smoking gun there, I think, with Antarctica.
lots of points to touch on. Let's talk about the Peary-Ray's map first, because I think that's one thing you and I connect on as far as
Absolutely.
how it connects with Graham Hancock and other things. So why don't you take it from there?
Okay, well, Perry Race was an admiral in the Ottoman Empire, which, if you're not familiar with the Ottoman Empire, you can look that up, but that's a Islamic empire that ruled much of the Middle East from Turkey around to the east and south there for quite a long time. And Perry Reese was I believe he was a cartographer and geographer, and he made a map in 1513 that depicts part of the northern coast of Antarctica, and it depicts it fairly accurately. And this is confounding because, well, there's about a mile of ice covering this coastline, and it appears he should not have been able to draw this map that accurately in 1513. That would have been just a few years after Columbus rediscovered America.
Yeah, the modern history paradigm will scream and proclaim that Antarctica was discovered in the 19th century. But how on earth is this 16th century map, who, according to I guess what we just looked at earlier, whose source map was drawn from an Alexander the Great um, time source map, which was what, third century AD, second, third,
300 something BC.
300 BC. Okay, sorry, I was the other way around.
Same
Okay,
same thing. Yeah, it's not really that important because that's historically that you know humans weren't allegedly sailing
right,
around the world at the time. America hadn't wasn't apparently discovered by
right,
that by Alexander's empire or even the Romans.
exactly. But I think what it shows is that Peary Ray's admits that he copied a source map from the time of Alexander the Great. But at the
Yeah.
time of Alexander the Great, there was probably a similar amount of ice on the coastline. How many thousands of years do you think it would take to create all of that ice?
Well, from zooming out here a bit, historically, we've been in a glacial period or interglacial period for quite a while. Big glaciations, um, around a little over 100,000 years ago or so. Really hasn't been terribly warm since then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm pretty sure that there's been near a mile of ice on that coastline well before the alleged dawn of human civilization. So that's puzzling how they could have mapped that. That means they either need tools like geophysical type tools, like remote sensing tools, which we have no evidence that ancient humans had.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's possible you could have mapped it with aircraft for something of above. So you have to remote view this or remote sense it if there's that much ice or drill or something. So we don't have any idea of how they would have been able to map this coastline
Right.
accurately.
Or sometimes the most simple explanation tends to be the craziest explanation, but the other explanation being they could have copied the source maps could stem back to a time when they mapped the uncovered coastline when there was no
Which
ice.
that could be as long as 1 million years ago. So we'll have to look in. I'll try to, for a future video, I'll try to find some evidence geologically of, or show some of what we think happened geologically at the moment, climatologically, to see if that's even, a possibility.
Yes.
If we're talking 1 million years or hundreds of thousands of years, there's not really any hard evidence that humans, especially advanced humans, and civilization was here on this planet.
Right. Let's veer back towards it a little bit. That Piri Reis subject is super interesting, but it just kind of touches on the Antarctica topic. But I think the biggest thing to mention here is that if anybody goes out and starts to just read into anything about Antarctica, it's weird. There's a lot of unconnected. It's very strange. There's lots of unconnected dots. There's not a lot of solid information.
Definitely not.
It takes a lot of digging to find anything out about Antarctica, and that's suspect itself. But let's jump ahead. Since we were talking about Piri Reis, let's just go chronologically and speak about Admiral Richard Byrd in the early 20th century.
Yeah, so it appears that most of Antarctica was not explored at all until, a little bit after 1900, and even this is even after World War II, that Admiral Byrd was flying around there exploring.
Yeah, he began with his North Pole expeditions, and there are some really good interviews, old black and white interviews with him that I think that you can see on YouTube, where he claims that they have taken expeditions to Antarctica, and there is land down there that's past Antarctica that is the size of the United States that has never seen the foot of a human being. That is, I'm paraphrasing, but almost directly is what he says.
Yeah.
Anybody who hasn't seen that interview should really go look at it.
His tales are fascinating for sure.
Yes, because what he's saying is he's not saying that Antarctica hasn't seen foot of a human being. He is saying there is land beyond Antarctica that hasn't seen the foot of a human being, which,
yeah,
the way he says it is very bizarre, but it points to the same weird aspect of digging into the Antarctica study. Every time you look even deeper into this, it just gets weirder and weirder.
Yeah, so if the globe is a solid sphere, then this testimony doesn't make sense. So we're at I think another crossroads here where we have to question what we think we know. But then again, unfortunately we can't see videos of what Admiral Byrd was talking about.
That's true.
That's really unfortunate because that could really clear up some of these things. But he has some really wild stories, right, about flying into an opening, a giant opening.
Yes, but I've never seen actual footage of him claiming those things. I've only seen.
I wonder if he wrote that down somewhere. I wonder where those claims came from. They sound pretty nuts, but quite.
They do sound nuts, but yeah, I'd be interested to know too where they came from. But I have heard those. I've heard those claims too. I think there's this type of alternative history that people are starting to uncover is very easily mixed in with this idea of conspiracy theories. And one thing that happens a lot, where do people learn about conspiracy theories? The internet. So, or more specifically, YouTube. I mean, you can just YouTube everything that you want to learn about. But one thing that happens, I'm convinced of, as far as these conspiracy theories topics go, is that there is an active psyop going on where the conspiracy theory that might expose some truth, the water is muddied with things like hollow earth or flat earth
and aliens.
Or aliens, yeah. And there's a lot of psyop deception about those things. There might be some big kernels of truth buried within all of this disinformation, but I'm real skeptical to believe any of it. However,
for sure,
it's interesting to note too that Admiral Byrd has used both by the hollow earthers to claim what you're saying, where he goes into the earth and meets these race of people or whatever, sees this other civilization.
Yeah, I don't.
He's
It's
also
a fascinating
used,
story, but no
yes, and he's
evidence
also
for
used
that.
by the flat earthers saying, since he's claiming there's a land beyond Antarctica, well, that must mean that Antarctica is this giant ring around a flat Earth, and maybe there are other rings around it where there are other lands, and maybe that's why the old pictures of Atlantis show a concentric ringed circular society, as above, so below. They were representing what was actually
Yeah,
out there. But the fact that that's very compelling, right? It's very interesting to think about. But
it
the
is.
fact that Admiral Byrd's story is used both by hollow earthers and flat earthers tells me that that is partially an active psyop to corrupt his information. And his
Right.
information doesn't clearly say, yeah, there's a hollow earth, yeah, there's a flat earth. It says, we need to go to Antarctica and go explore and
Yes.
uncover this shit because this is amazing. That's all he's saying.
Yes. It definitely appears that we're missing something about Antarctica. From the looking at the geology of Antarctica, you have a lot of evidence of fossils from millions of years ago in which the climate that formed in a warm climate were deposited in a warm climate. So I think the prevailing theory in geology that Antarctica was part of like the supercontinent Pangaea, and it slowly is with plate tectonics has moved to its current location. And the main difference, for those of you who don't know, the main difference between Antarctica and the North Pole is that the North Pole is not a landmass; it's ice, whereas the South Pole is a landmass above sea level.
Right.
And so it would be really interesting to explore more of the geology and some of the more recent deposits there and see when things have moved. I'm unaware of to what extent we've explored Antarctica. I mean, it's hard to get. It's really difficult conditions because of the cold and the ice,
Right.
just to get crews down there.
Well, I guess the best entry point to Antarctica is in New Zealand.
Yeah, a
Uh,
lot of the crews go from New Zealand
Christchurch, I think is what
and
it's
from
called.
Australia too. I think.
Yeah, from us. Yeah, somewhere over there, same area. But um, so Admiral Byrd, Richard Byrd, does these studies, comes back. CIA gets involved in Project High Jump, which the flat earthers also like to cling to,
Yeah.
as far as they're trying to smash a rocket into the dome, the firmament dome mentioned in the Bible that covers the earth.
Yeah, there's a lot of great information out there that gets twisted into these ridiculous theories, and it just turns people off. When really, Admiral Byrd did go there on multiple operations. These were real government. A lot of this is declassified now. You can see that they went there and they flew tons of missions. They think they covered something like 200,000 square miles in what they flew over, including Admiral Byrd and a few of his co-workers there.
I'm not even claiming to know or to speculate if that stuff is true or not.
Yeah,
It just sounds so outlandish, but
it sounds so outlandish. Like you think, oh, that's ridiculous. I'm not even going to look into this. But
uh,
really, there is something
the
to look
fact that I
into.
feel that way makes me also concede, well, I don't know. So,
Yeah,
but as soon as Admiral Byrd creates that interest in Antarctica, it's not very long after where the Nazis start showing interest in Antarctica as well. And they really were the first ones to establish a little region. And they didn't really, I guess, make claim to a region. They just called a little area where they were landing Neuschwabenland. And
yeah,
then you can go all into the conspiracy about the Nazis being
for
down
sure. I
there.
mean, on the basically, I'm sure they were looking for minerals because Germany isn't particularly wealthy in oil and gold, and
Mm-hmm.
they needed those minerals to keep their war effort up. So they probably, on the surface were started out looking for minerals there, and that's what Admiral Byrd talks a lot about, the
Yeah,
mineral
natural
wealth of
resources.
Antarctica. And we're talking about these. If we're talking about plant life being shown in the fossil record there, and this is a huge landmass, it's more than likely that there are huge deposits of minerals and oil,
Mm-hmm.
huge natural resources, which we mine and we produce oil from Prudhoe Bay, some pretty cold inhospitable places. There's no reason we couldn't produce down there in Antarctica, and it appears in the future that they'll probably be producing minerals and oil from there.
Yeah, you're probably right. But let's jump ahead. Jump ahead again too. One of the most interesting things that's happened with Antarctica for me has been recently seeing all of the state officials from around the world taking trips down there. The one that stood out the most to me was probably John Kerry's trip down there, because the day he left for Antarctica, he left on the day that Trump, or the presidential election, he left on November 8th, 2016, that
Really?
day. Yeah.
Interesting.
Which is kind of interesting. There's a really long press conference about it on YouTube where the Obama's press secretary, is intensely grilled about why the taxpayers are funding John Kerry's trip to Antarctica and what the purpose of the trip is, politically speaking.
What did they say?
And I guess he chalks it up to he's going down there to talk to climate change researchers about the melting ice caps and stuff like that. So that's fitting nicely into their little.
Yeah, but why the hell can't they meet him here in Washington D.C.? You know,
whether it's true or not.
It's ridiculous that he should go there.
Exactly. Whether it's true or not, the climate change argument is a golden ticket for them to just start spending money. So John Kerry, Joe Biden went down there, I think, in 2009. Vladimir Putin has been to Antarctica in the past 10 years. And then also the Russian Pope, the Russian Orthodox Pope, his name is Kirill, K-I-R-I-L-L, Krill or something. Old guy, like in his 70s, big old guy. Made a big point to take him down there. Like, it's hard. It's physically demanding to go to Antarctica. But they took him down there to the South Pole. Do you know where Buzz Aldrin was evac'd from when he had his most recent medical emergency meltdown? Antarctica.
What?
Yeah, all these people, all of these big names are down there.
It makes sense that you'd have politicians and big businessmen going down there if they're trying to split up land. Well, even why the hell would you go there? It's it's allegedly a frozen ice capped land with, why would you be doing that? So it appears that something else is definitely going on there.
And there's some sort of unspoken, there's some sort of unspoken treaty where no one's making claim to the land.
Yeah.
When in history has that ever happened? Ever?
Yeah, this is unprecedented, and
it is.
You can't see all this information and say, this is business as usual. Nothing's up. Something's, at a minimum, they're trying to split up the natural resources. At a maximum, aliens. I don't know.
It is. I've always believed that the alien card is a deception card, and that
I'd agree with that for sure.
And that when the government decides to disclose, if they do, any kind of information about aliens, they will do so in a fashion that suits their own interests, and it will be in a deceptive manner. Yeah. And if people are sitting around waiting for their government to tell them what the truth is, then they have never learned anything about history and about how our government controls.
But our government's really, really good. It helps us. It takes care of us, right?
No, they have our interests at heart. So we're going to
first government ever in the history of the world to do that.
Oh, yeah.
We're not biased to think that our government is good, right?
Wow. So, if any kind of information comes out about these, what somebody would call a conspiracy theory, or what somebody like you and me would call, I would say, alternative history, real history. Yeah. The only conspiracy theory in my mind that's being propagated is the official mainstream story. Yeah. Because there is a conspiracy to create a false narrative, which is a theory that is untrue, and propagate it at some crazy level. That seems like a huge lie, but when you start to read about anything, for yourself, it's crazy to see what kind of road it takes you on. But if our state officials or our rulers or masters decide to, release any kind of information about ancient artifacts, Antarctica, aliens, anything of that nature, and connect them in any way, I can almost guarantee, while there might be some kernel of truth in that revelation, that it will be mostly deception.
Yeah, it's definitely it's so puzzling why politicians and religious figures would be going down there. There's not much to see if it's just a bunch of ice. It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense, and it makes sense to have researchers there. But why would a politician? Why do politicians usually travel to meet with other politicians? And
Mm-hmm.
why do they have to meet there in an inhospitable place? That doesn't make sense at all.
They're all going down there to view something. They're going down there to see something. What could
Must
be
be.
down there that would draw so many people? I don't think it's something as simple as, oh, we found evidence of life,
Or were they
or
just telling us that they went there and they didn't really go there at all? Another psyop, a psyop within a psyop. How about that?
notice how one. Yeah, right. Who knows?
They
If
just
I
wanted us to waste an hour of our day talking about Antarctica. And they're sitting there laughing. We never went there. That place sounds miserable.
that's just as plausible as what we're talking
But
about.
it's definitely drawing attention there, and that seems to be their aim. So
Definitely. Maybe Antarctica has been turned into a giant Jeffrey Epstein pedophile island.
yeah, we caught all their other ones. Now they're
That's just
going
as
down
plausible.
there.
Maybe Huma Abedin and Hillary and Bill and Anthony Weiner and Joe Biden are all going down to Antarctica pedophile island.
Crazy.
Antarctica Gate.
Antarctica Gate. Oh man. Well, if Trump goes down there, then we'll really know something's up, right?
Depends on what he has to say about it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and if Rex Tillerson goes down there, we know there's oil there.
Yeah, I'll wait
sure
for Trump.
Oil there.
I'll wait for Trump to get down there and tweet, "There's a fucking pyramid down here."
I mean, looking back historically, I'm trying to think of when they started producing oil in Alaska, and I'm wondering if did you see a bunch of politicians in America go up to Prudhoe Bay? I doubt it. That would be a comparable place climatologically, really inhospitably cold. Did a bunch of politicians go there? I doubt it.
Yes.
They named the tallest mountain in Alaska Mount McKinley, and he never went there, so the Alaskans they call it Mount Denali.
Exactly. The fact that so many what is the purpose of a politician? A politician is the interface between our rulers and the plebes, if you want to put it simply. Yeah. So what's the purpose of all these politicians, of that type of person? What is the purpose of sending them someplace like Antarctica? Why? They have to all come to an understanding, all of them. This is why. They're all going down there to see something, whatever it is. They all have to come to an understanding of what it is, because something's going to happen in the future where they have to be knowledgeable about this.
Yeah.
It's obviously something that they cannot view or understand unless they go there themselves.
Yeah, and that's really curious.
That is weird. So who knows what it is? Yeah. But I can guarantee that whatever it is, it's going to be big. Whatever is revealed about Antarctica will be big.
Yeah, they're preparing.
There will be a large amount of deception that comes with it. Big kernels of truth, of just the most distracting truth. By the way, if this shit comes out, it would not surprise me at all if this is timed to be released at the perfect time to distract people with this Pizzagate pedophile shit. Imagine how easily people would forget about all the pedophile stuff going on, the Satanism stuff going on within our political elite in Hollywood. If this stuff comes out, how easily that will just be forgotten.
Yeah.
So it's something big. It's going to be something big.
It could be. Or it could all just be lies and misdirection, and the same old will happen, and we'll continue to stay in our place as plebes and not challenge authority above us.
It's very true, too.
So I guess the moral of this episode is, who knows what the hell's going on in Antarctica? We don't.
Yes.
But it appears something is.
But what you can conclude is that no one knows what the hell is going on in Antarctica. And that should be disconcerting enough for everybody to just start looking into it for themselves, just to see what's going on, see what you can
Yeah.
research and find out. It's interesting.
It's very interesting, and it the theory of plate tectonics is key to understanding the processes of the Earth, and it's a good place to start studying that. Just say, how the hell did these marine warm tropical plants get here in the fossil record in an area that even in warm climates should still be pretty cold? So,
Yeah.
It's a good way to challenge your own knowledge of the planet, just without going into the heavy conspiracy.
Yeah, it's good mental exercise for sure.
But feel free to dive into the heavy conspiracy, because apparently it exists there.
Definitely. I'm sure we'll do more videos about Peary Ray's map and other related subjects, or even Admiral Byrd on other videos.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, that will conclude episode 9.
Thanks for tuning in.